What we're looking at is a Toyota 2IR FE engine. It's idling. If I increase the accelerator position, if I push the gas, it's going to increase fuel consumption. It's going to raise the engine RPM. Bottom right corner, that's gallons per hour. That's your fuel consumption. Top right corner, that's your RPM. That's the speed of the engine. As I increase the fuel flow, as I increase the rate of energy going into the engine, the rate of the engine rotation increases. More power equals more RPM. Right now the engine is just idling. Well, it's not really idling. It's kind of running faster than idle. It's kind of a fast idle, but the engine's not really doing anything. Right now the engine is just standing there, overcoming all its resistances. It's not doing any useful work. So the engine load is still pretty low still. We're using about 0.66 gallons per hour at about 2400 RPM. That's how much fuel we need to make the engine go that RPM. We saw earlier that if we use 0.2 gallons per hour, we go about 770 RPM. So if we take the engine speed at 770 RPM and we supply the engine with 0.2 gallons per hour, so we put 0.2 gallons per hour into the engine, the result is an idling engine. There is 0 brake horsepower. What do I mean by brake horsepower? Brake horsepower is the amount of power available to the transmission to supply power to the wheels. Brake horsepower minus drivetrain losses equals wheel horsepower. All right, so what's going to happen if we increase the fuel consumption? Well, the engine is going to rev up. Once the engine is at a higher fuel consumption and it's revved up, it's at equilibrium. So the equilibrium for 0.2 gallons per hour in this engine is 770 RPM. If I increase fuel consumption to 0.66, the equilibrium for the engine is 2400 RPM. If I take the idling engine at 770 RPM and I increase the fuel consumption to 0.66 gallons per hour, the engine now has a surplus of energy. It has a surplus of energy. This energy, from this burning fuel, it has to go somewhere. If the engine's in neutral, if the engine's not doing anything of the overcoming its own resistances, what's going to happen is that there's going to be power available at the crankshaft. How much power? We can take a look at this estimator right here. So this engine is off, 0 revolutions per minute, 0 gallons per hour. The result is 0 brake horsepower. If I increase this to 770 and I increase this to 0.2, I'm expecting to see some small number of brake horsepower. This is an idling engine right here, almost 0 horsepower. If we increase this to 0.66, we got 10 horsepower. 10 brake horsepower. So what's this power doing right here? It is going to speed up the engine. This power is being used to speed up the engine. So 770 RPM, 0.66 gallons per hour. The engine has a surplus. That energy is going to speed up the engine. Once it's at 2400 RPM, all of the available energy is just being used to keep the engine at this RPM. The engine has more internal resistance, so it needs more power to do this. What's going to happen if we decrease the fuel consumption? Let's say we're at 2400 RPM and we decrease the fuel consumption to 0.2 gallons per hour. Well, we already know where the equilibrium for 0.2 gallons per hour is. It's 770 RPM. So let's go back to our estimator. So now we're at 2400 RPM and we drop this to 0.2 gallons per hour. The result, minus 10 horsepower. This minus 10 horsepower, this is engine braking. So the engine is creating resistance, which is trying to slow down the flywheel. If the flywheel is connected to the wheels, through the transmission and the axles and whatever else, it's going to try to slow down the car. So the wheels are connected to the car. The wheels want to slow down, the car wants to slow down. This is going to subtract energy from the system. The equilibrium for this situation, 2400 RPM, 0.2 gallons per hour, it's this again. So if we increase the fuel consumption, the engine revs up. If we decrease the fuel consumption, the engine slows down. That's how this works. This is how driving works. You're at the idle, you increase the fuel consumption, the engine revs up. Some of the energy from the engine, some of the energy from the fuel is being used to speed up the engine. Some of the energy is being added to the car via the wheels. If you're going uphill, some of the energy is going to the gravitational potential energy. stored in the vehicle as it's going up the hill. One thing we need to touch on really quickly. So this is 2400 RPM, right? 0.2 gallons per hour. This is engine braking. 100% of the fuel in the engine is being used to mitigate the resistive forces inside the engine. It's not powering the car per se, but it's definitely slowing down the car as a net effect. If we go to the estimator and we look at how much horsepower, how much brake horsepower we get when we're at truly 0 gallons per hour, this is true engine braking. This is what we're really used to when we mean engine braking. This is minus 14 horsepower. So that we know if we do this, we do 2400 RPM, we do 0.00 gallons per hour. The result is a minus 14 brake horsepower. What are we going to do with this knowledge? What are we going to do with this information? So let's say we're on a road somewhere. Just say we're on a flat road and we want to go from 35 miles per hour to 30 miles per hour, okay? We have a couple of ways we can do this. We can shift to neutral, we can push the brakes. The result at the wheels, there's going to be some amount of negative brake horsepower. The car is going to want to slow down. We could also just leave it in gear and lift off the accelerator, use 0 fuel. The resistance in the engine is going to slow us down, and we're going to drop our speed from 35 to 30 miles per hour over a period of time. That's engine braking. That's pretty self-explanatory. Cool, that works. You know, if you're trying to go 30, you lift off the gas, the car slows down. Okay, we accomplished our goal. Now let's say we are on a minus 3% grade. We want to go 50 miles per hour. To do that, we need 0 brake horsepower. We need the wheels to see 0 brake horsepower. We have a couple different ways to accomplish that. We already know there's 2 situations right here. Let's say we're at 50 miles per hour, going down to 3% grade. We just want to go 50 miles per hour. If we have 0 brake horsepower at the wheels, we'll go 50 miles per hour in this situation. So we have 2 different ways to accomplish that, right? We can shift to neutral. We can let the engine idle. We'll use 0.2 gallons per hour. The result is that we're going to have 0 brake horsepower. You could also turn the engine off, shift to neutral, and you could have 0 RPM, 0 gallons per hour, and have 0 brake horsepower. This would be pretty dangerous. This would be dumb. Laws of physics will let you do it, but it's pretty dumb, pretty dangerous. We don't want to do this. This is impractical. We could do this within reason. You could also, at 50 miles per hour, you could shift to 4th gear. You could rev the engine at 2400 RPM. How are we going to get to 0 brake horsepower at 2400 RPM? Well, we have to press the gas pedal. If we don't push the gas pedal, this is what we're going to do. We're going to be at 2400 RPM, 0 gallons per hour, minus 14 brake horsepower. This is not what we want. We want to be pushing the gas just a little bit. That way we're at 0 brake horsepower and we go down the hill at 50 miles per hour. That's what we want here. So we have a couple different ways we can do this. We can look at some math problems right here really quick. So if I do 50 miles per hour and I divide that by 0 gallons per hour, the per hours cancel each other out. And this is 50 over 0 miles per gallon. Now 50 over 0 is not a number. It's just you know, we would colloquially call this infinity. But this is the situation that we're doing here. So we could do 50 miles per hour divided by 0 gallons per hour is 50 over 0 miles per gallon, which is infinite miles per gallon, infinity. You could also be in neutral with the engine idling. This is 50 miles per hour divided by 0.2 gallons per hour. What is this equal to? This is 250 miles per gallon. Remember, the per hours cancel. You take it the per hour, you divide it by per hour, you get nothing. You get 1. The 50 divided by 0.2, that's the 250. The mile per the gallon, that's the miles per gallon. So in this situation, in neutral, we get 250 miles per gallon. We could also be in 4th gear. We could be at 2400 RPM. We're doing 50 miles per hour divided by 0.66 gallons per hour. The result, 76 miles per gallon. Which one of these would you rather have? If you care even a little bit about how much fuel you consume, you probably want to be in this boat. However, if you like to stay alive, you probably want to be in this boat. If you want the utmost control, if you want immediate control, you probably want to be in this boat right here. You know, this is the boat for me in this situation. In this situation, I need 0 brake horsepower. I can accomplish that in different ways. I can be at idle and neutral, have very little resistance, or I can be in gear and I can use more fuel. It's pointless though. I could just be a neutral, just not do anything. Now let's do this scenario. Now the hill's getting steeper. Now it's a minus 5% grade. We want to go 50 miles per hour to accomplish this. We need to be at minus 14 brake horsepower. Okay, this is the math again. We could turn the engine off and get 0 miles per gallon. We could use the brakes to create minus 14 total horsepower at the wheels. Net effect, right? Net effect. The result is going to still be the same, infinite miles per gallon. Or we could do the 50 miles per hour divided by 0.2 gallons per hour. We'll have 250 miles per gallon. In this situation, which would be good, but could we do even better? We could be in 2400 RPM. It would be 50 divided by 0 gallons per hour again. It'd be infinite miles per gallon again. So we could be in 4th gear and get infinite miles per gallon. That would be better than being a neutral in this situation. So this is how this works. If needing to slow down, net slowing effect, better to be in gear. Engine braking. We need to slow down anyway. If not needing a net slowing effect, better to be in neutral, low RPM. Low RPM means low energy consumption. So in this 5% grade, remember, to go 50 miles per hour, we need a slowing effect. If we need minus 14 horsepower and we have 0, we're going to speed up. And the definition of this situation is that we don't want to speed up. So if we shift to neutral here, we have 0 brake horsepower, we're going to speed up unless we push the brakes. We could just use the engine braking, right? Don't have to use the brakes. Win-win. In this situation, this minus 3% grade going 50 miles per hour, we need 0 brake horsepower. If we have less than that, we're going to slow down. What do you think is going to happen when you slow down this hill? Let's say we're doing minus 14 brake horsepower for 10 seconds. How much fuel do you think we need to recover that? We're going to need positive 14 horsepower. So what is that going to take? We're going to need about 1.3 gallons per hour, maybe 1.31 gallons per hour. So this is how much fuel it's going to take. You're going to have to use more fuel. If you engine brake down to this 3% grade, you're going to slow down. You're going to have to use more fuel to get through it. You could have just shifted to neutral, right? If you have minus 14 horsepower for 10 seconds, so now you're in the hole 140 horsepower seconds or whatever, okay? In order to recover that, you have to add 14 horsepower. How much fuel is that going to cost? So you're going to be using 1.31 gallons per hour. I realize this is 1.31 gallons per hour. Okay, there's 3,600 seconds in an hour times 10 seconds. You're going to use 0.0036. 0.0036 gallons in this 20-second period, right? You really were engine braking for the first 10 seconds. You weren't doing anything for those 10 seconds. You were not doing anything at all. No fuel usage, okay? But for the 10 seconds that you had to accelerate because you slowed down too much, this is how much fuel you use, 0.0036. Now let's say we were in the other situation, 1 over 3,600 times 0.2 gallons per hour, but it's times the whole 20 seconds. Okay, 0.001 gallons per hour. Let's do this. If you're in gear for the going down this hill, you are using a little over 3 times as much fuel, even though there's 10 seconds where you used no fuel. You used 3 times more fuel overall because you slowed down too much. This is what we're talking about. This is why we shift to neutral. Because if you don't want to slow down, it's better to just be in neutral. If you want to slow down, we've already talked about this. If you want to slow down, you better be in gear. It's better to be in gear if you want to slow down anyway. And what I mean by slowing down is a net slowing effect. If we were going to speed up down the hill, we don't want to speed up, but we can downshift to go the same speed. That's a net slowing effect, right? Because if we were to speed up anyways. If needing to slow down, net slowing effect, better to be in gear. Engine braking. If not needing a net slowing effect, better to be in neutral, low RPM. Low RPM means low energy consumption.